Well, suicide is one of the leading causes of death in America, and experts say it is on the rise.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention will be raising money for its educational and support programs at its annual walks happening all of this season in the fall.
And here to tell us more about the event is Dr. Christine Moutier, Chief Medical Officer for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and Dionne Monsanto, a board member for the New York City chapter. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You know, this is an issue that no one likes to talk about. And I think what's so important is, you know, I read a lot of what you've written, Dionne. I know you lost your daughter, Seaway, at 15 years old to suicide. And one of the things that you wrote is that talk is saving lives.
Yes.
And that's really why you're sharing your story. Tell us about Seaway.
Seaway was an amazing child from conception, you know, through the end of life. Really smart, really gifted, really talented. And I really wanted to share so much about her life so her death wouldn't color her life. Although I only had 15 years with her, she was amazing. She was a dancer, she was a guitarist, she was a mathematical genius. You know, at the point in time she was being tutored at home, education was at home. We had to bring in a separate teacher just for math. So really exceptionally gifted and talented, but very much emotional, troubled, teary, weepy, crying an hour a day was sort of normal in our home, while challenging, trying to figure out what's going on. You know, she was my second child, so it was like, well, I don't understand what's happening here. What's different? And of course, everyone is different, but it was a lot to deal with.
And I know your family went through so much treatment. You tried everything. And I was asking you what you really want people to know, especially suicide loss survivors.
For the loss survivors, it's always important to let them know that it's not their fault. There's so much guilt when people pass from any reason, even though, you know, you can die at age people like should have done more, could have done more. So letting people know that they did the best they could with the information that they had and not to feel guilty. You know, because there's things that I've learned since working with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. But I always, when I start down the path of, oh, I should have, I said, let it go. I did what I could. So I really want people to be aware that they did the best they could with that information.
And doctor, we have a graphic of some warning signs. What should parents especially be on the lookout for in their children?
Yeah, you know, we're living in a time where people are willing to talk more about mental health, but when you're the one in distress, it is not easy to even tell your parents if you're a child or teen, or your spouse or friends and family. There's still not a lot of language and deeper understanding about how to do that at a time, especially when you're struggling. So if you're a parent, or frankly, if you're the loved one of anyone, right? The key thing is to understand that people will only give little clues because we are not conversant in and without stigma yet, although we're working so hard to take the stigma out of any mental health struggles and out of talking about these things. So noticing subtle changes in behavior, whether it's the way they're talking about their stress load, other sort of physiological changes in sleep, appetite, energy, drive. It might feel like you're making more out of little things, but that's the thing. Mental health and health in general is actually stable over time. There certainly are ups and downs, but don't write it off to stress. Don't write it off just to teenage, you know, angst and transitions.
And I know it's very important to be very direct with that person and ask them, are you thinking of hurting yourself?
Yes, I mean, I would absolutely start with an open conversation where you invite them, you make it safe for them to open up to you and tell you what's really going on. And this really applies, again, to any type of relationship. And then once they start talking about their stress load, there may be ways that you can tell this is really overwhelming to them. And that, I think, is your entry point to say, when you talk about that stressor, I'm wondering if you ever think about taking your life. because it sounds like it's very overwhelming to you.
Just in our final few seconds, there's several walks happening across New York and New Jersey coming up. Briefly, how can people get involved?
Yes, I mean, go to afsp.org/walks if you'd like to find a walk near you. But there are many ways to be involved in really normalizing these kinds of conversations and getting rid of stigma and preventing suicide.
And I know you have one in Manhattan on October 20th. I'll be there with you.
Yay.
And I think it's a really, really important issue. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
Thank
we're sorry
you.
about your loss.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing her story, your daughter's.
Thank you.